Hello, dear friends, and welcome back to part 2 of our lovely flip through of painters and writers, an anthology by Carlos Peacock. This lovely old tome, this anthology was published back in 1949 and has a lovely concept behind it whereby Carlos Peacock has placed wonderful works of art opposite wonderful works of literature, often either directly inspired, one or the other, or has some sort of link or a reference point to it. I think we may have got up to here last time. So without much further ado, let's flick through this book and start with Charles Dickens' The Old Curiosity Shop against Arthur Boyd Houghton's Punch and Judy. Punch and Judy, if you're not familiar, is a popular old puppet show that you often find in fairs or seaside towns. It originates from Italy, Punchinella. It's an old Victorian style puppet show, and it's not very pleasant actually. Punch is a horrible anti-hero character who attacks everybody nearest and dearest to him. It's a strange children's show. If you do see it in this day and age, it's often very sanitized or censored. But have a look it up if you're interested to see what the original Punch and Judy was like. It's a trip. When they came to any town or village, or even to detached towns of good appearance, Short blew a blast upon the brazen trumpet and caroled a fragment of a song in that hilarious tone common to punchers and their consorts. If people hurried to the windows, Mr. Cotlin pitched the temple, and hastily unfurling the drapery and concealing Short therewith, flourished hysterically on the pipes and performed an air. Then the entertainment began as soon as it might be, Mr. Cotlin having the responsibility of deciding on its length and of protracting or expediting the time for the hero's final triumph over the enemy of mankind, according as he judged that the after-crop of halfpence would be plentiful or scant. When it had been gathered into the last farthing, he resumed his load, and on they went again. Travelling entertainers. Here we have William Morris's La Belle Isotte and Lord Tennyson's The Last Tournament. Isotte, of the white hands they called her, the sweet name, allured him first, and then the maid herself, who served him well with those white hands of hers, and loved him well. Sir John Millais is the boyhood of Raleigh, or Raleigh. I've always struggled with the pronunciation of this particular word. It's another typical English word that can have many different pronunciations, sometimes very far away from what they're originally spelt like. And Joseph Conrad's an outcast of the islands. The sea, perhaps of its saltness, roughens the outside, but keeps sweet the kernel of its servant's soul. The old sea, the sea of many years ago, whose servants were devoted slaves, and went from youth to age or to a sudden grave without needing to open the book of life, because they could look at eternity reflected on the element that gave the life and dealt the death. Like a beautiful and unscrupulous woman, the sea of the past was glorious in its smiles, irresistible in its anger, capricious, enticing, illogical, irresponsible. A thing to love, a thing to fear. It cast a spell, it gave joy, it lulled gently into boundless faith. Then with quick and causeless relentless anger it killed, but its cruelty was redeemed by the charm of its inscrutable mystery, by the immensity of its promise, by the supreme witchery of its possible favour. Strong men with childlike hearts were faithful to it, were content to live by its grace, to die by its will. That's a wonderful excerpt there about the sea. Dante Gabriel Rossetti's Beat the Beatrix. Beatrice and Emily Bronte's Wuthering Heights, very famous novel, of course. What is not connected with her to me, and what does not recall her? I cannot look down to this floor, but her features are shaped in the flags, in every cloud and every tree, filling the air at night, and caught by glimpses in every object by day. I am surrounded with her image. The most ordinary faces of men and women, my own features, mock me with a resemblance. The entire world is a dreadful collection of memories that she did exist, and I have lost her. As true today as it is yesterday. Another Dickens piece, this time from reprinted pieces, Arthur Boyd Houghton's Ramsgate Sands. It's interesting. Bit of art imitating life. I'm popping off to Ramsgate this weekend with some old friends. At bathing time in the morning, the little bay re-echoes with every shrill variety of shriek and splash, after which, if the weather be at all fresh, the sands teem with small blue mottled legs, the sands of the children's great resort. They cluster there like ants, so busy burying their particular friends and making castles with infinite labour, which the next tide overthrows, that it is cautious to consider how they play to the music of the sea foreshadows the realities of their afterlives. Dante Gabriel Rossetti's Monovana against Gaito Cavalcanti's poem here. It was translated by Rossetti, and Monovana was the subject of Cavalcanti's sonnet, and Rossetti's imaginary painting of her owes its inspiration to the poem. Beauty in woman, the high will's decree, fair knighthood armed for manly exercise, the pleasant song of birds, love's soft replies, the strength of rapid ships upon the sea, the serene air when light begins to be, the white snow without wind that falls and lies, fields of all flower, the place where waters rise, silver and gold, azure in jewellery, weighed against these, the sweet and quiet worth which my dear lady cherishes at heart might seem a little matter to be shown, being truly over these as much apart as the whole heaven is greater than this earth. All good to kindred natures cleaveth soon. I love a sonnet. To have a look at my reading of all of Shakespeare's sonnets if you're interested in hearing some more romantic prose. Henry Wallace's Death of Chatterton here, and William Wordsworth's Resolution and Independence. I thought of Chatterton, the marvellous boy, the sleepless soul that perished in his pride. Might have to look into this figure a little more, Chatterton. Seems intriguing. What's in that box? Is that shredded money? Is that letters? Here we have Sir John Malais's Christ in the House of His Parents. The carpentry. Interesting, actually. I'm not too familiar with the stories, but I'm not sure there are many depictions of child growing up, Christ growing up, are there? I'm not sure. Gospel according to St. Matthew. Is not this the carpenter's son? Is not his mother called Mary, and his brethren Moses and Simon and Judas. Here is Sir John Millais' The Order of Release. This looks like a Scotsman being released from a prison, from an English jail, an English redcoat. Gerard Manley Hopkins in a letter to Robert Bridges. I am sure you are very unjust to Millais, which just at present is a reflection that affords me comfort. He has, I have always seen, no feeling for beauty in abstract design, and he never designs, but he has a deep feeling, it is plain, for concrete beauty, wild or natural beauty, much as Keats had. Do you mean to say the Order for Release is not a noble work? Interesting, having some discourse about art. 34 Arthur Hughes's The Tryst against Gilvert's Diary. Reverend Frances Gilvert. Her head was uncovered, save by her own bright, beautiful hair, more glorious far than any crown. Her brilliant grey eyes sparkled, shining like stars as she stood under the shade and sweet, cool green gloom of the elms. We met and parted at the garden gate, but there was no kiss. We took no kiss, only she gave me a bright glance and long clasp of her warm, white little hand. The kiss at the garden gate is a sweet, delicious flower, but it is old-fashioned now, and does not grow by the green wicket beneath those tall twin elms. Yet I know a gate by which that flower still blows, and by that gate I once did pluck that flower. Is that a euphemism, do you think, a metaphor? John Singer Sargent's Lord Ribblesdale. Great capture of expression there. And Edmund and Jules de Goncourt's The Goncourt Journals, translated by Louis Gallantier. In the distinguished Englishman there is something of the aristocracy of the beautiful and kindly dogs of his country. Referring to, say, spaniels, or certain terriers, perhaps. We're now moving on to English landscape painters. Sir Benjamin West's View from the Terrace at Windsor. Lovely open countryside landscapes that I so love about this country. Richard Jefferies' The Hills and the Vale. Sitting indoors with every modern luxury around, rich carpets, artistic furniture, pictures, statuary, food and drink brought from the uttermost ends of the earth, with the telegraph, the printing press, the railway at immediate command. It is easy to say, what have I to do with all of this? I am neither an animal nor a plant, and the sun is nothing to me. This is my life which I have created. I am apart from the other inhabitants of the earth. But go to the window. See, there is but a thin, transparent sheet of brittle glass between the artificial man and the air, the light, the trees and grass. So between him and the other innumerable organisms which live and breathe, there is but a thin, feeble crust of prejudice and social custom. Between him and those irresistible laws which keep the sun upon its course, there is absolutely no bar whatever. Without air he cannot live. Nature cannot be escaped. Then face the facts, and having done so, there will speedily arise a calm pleasure beckoning onwards. That's rather lovely. That reckoning of just given to the fact that we are all tiny passers-by in a world that will eternally march on, until it doesn't, of course, but that may be billions of years off, and how we all are just tiny elements in nature's beautiful stage play. And suddenly find that depressing, and I think I would have found that concept rather depressing in my youth, when it was all about making a name for oneself and being known and being remembered, but must still do that. You just simply don't need to put your pressure on yourself that is the be-all and end-all. We all go on the same journey to the same eventual destination, and by and large, accepting that is endlessly calming to me. J.M.W. Turner's Chichester Channel, and Edward of London's The Canal, where so dark and still slept the water, never changing, for the clouds poured in the meadows, oft I turned me. Fear would strike me chill on the clearest day in summer, yet I loved to stand and ponder hours together. By the tarred bridge rail, there the lockman's vine-clad window mirrored in the tomb-like water stared in silence. Barges passed me by, with their unknown surly masters, and small cabins whereon some rude hand had painted. Tree and castles high cheerily steeped the towing horses, and the women sung their children into slumber. Here we have George Borrow's Lavengro and John Crome's slate quarries. He has painted not pictures of the world, but English pictures, such as Gainsborough himself might have done. Beautiful rural pieces with trees which might well tempt the little birds to perch upon them. Thou needest not run to Rome, brother, whilst at home there are pictures of England, nor needest thou even go to London, the big city, in search of a master, for thou hast one at home in the old East Anglian town, who can instruct thee whilst thou needest instruction. Better stay at home, brother, at least for a season, and toil and strive midst groanings and despondency, till thou hast attained excellence, even as he done, the little dark man with the brown coat and the top boots, whose name will one day be considered the chief ornament of the old town, and whose works will at no distant period rank amongst the proudest pictures of England, and England against the world. Thy master, my brother, thy at present all too little consider master. Crome. Glowing words there from George Borrow. Here we have Lake Nemi by Turner, and Lord Byron's Childe Harold's Pilgrimage. Lone Nemi, navelled in the woody hills, so far that the uprooting wind which tears the oak from his foundation, and which spills the ocean o'er its boundary, and bears its foam against the skies, reluctant spares the oval mirror of thy glassy lake, and calm as cherished hate, its surface wears a deep cold settled aspect of naught can shake, all coiled into itself and round as he sleeps the snake. John Constable's Dedham Mill, against John Constable's letter to his friend Archdeacon Fisher. The sound of water escaping from mill dams, etc., willows, old rotten planks, slimy posts and brickwork, I love such things. Painting is with me but another name for feeling, and I associate my careless boyhood with all that lies on the banks of the Stour. Those scenes made me a painter, and I am grateful. I agree, Mr. Constable. I tried to somewhat replicate a watermill in my medieval village soundscape. Give it a listen, see if you think I was faithful in my replication. Another lovely Turner, Rocky Bay with classic figures. And Thomas Gray, a letter. I saw the clouds and dark vapours open gradually to right and left, rolling over one another in great smoky wreaths, and the tide, as it flowed gently in upon the sands, first whitening, then tinged with gold and blue, and all at once a little line of insufferable brightness that, before I can write these 5 words, was grown to half an orb, and now to a whole one, too glorious to be distinctly seen. It is It's very odd, it makes no figure on paper, yet I shall remember it as long as the sun, or at least as long as I endure. I wonder whether anybody ever saw it before. I hardly believe it. John Sell Cotman's The Drop Gate, and George Crabbe's The Lover's Journey. On a clear stream the vivid sunbeams played, through noble elms, and on the surface made this moving picture checkered light and shade. Lovely and romantic journey down the stream. Moore Turner, of course, a hugely influential landscape artist, Bridge and Tower, and John Ruskin, modern painters. Perhaps, of all modern artists, Turner is the one to whom most people would first look as the great representative of 19th century cloudiness, every one of his compositions being evidently dictated by a delight in seeing only part of things rather than the whole, and in casting clouds and mists around them rather than unveiling them. That is a certain lovely element in his paintings, and one that does evoke a certain element of Englishness, the landscape through the low-lying fog or cloud. John Constable, another fantastic pastoral landscape artist, with Valley Farm, Willie Lott's House, and a letter from Edward Fitzgerald to Bernard Barton, a fresh constable with the dew on it. All the freshness of colours is required to give the freshness of landscape. James McNeill Whistler's Old Battersea Bridge. It's a very high up bridge. George Gissing's On Battersea Bridge. Selections from the works of George Gissing. They move on in a ceaseless stream, but so few turn their eyes consciously westward. Pedestrians only are crossing, for the narrow, much-propped bridge, condemned already, is closed against heavier traffic. A mist lurks about the river, vapour which thickens, obscuring the objects on either bank, obscuring but not hiding, blotting out all meaner details, shading off the harsher intermediate lines, leaving only the broad features of buildings massed darkly against the grey background. On the banks everything is dimmer. The mists seem borne this way by the southwest wind, which begins to moan out of the distance. The lamps flicker, and their cleared emerald changes to something between yellow and red. The distance is lost. Presently the shapes on the little strand hard by lose their pleasant suggestiveness and become mere phantoms. From the old tower of Chelsea Church, just at hand, there is struck out the hour of 5. London was a very different city. I suppose during the period of the Industrial Revolution, huge and rapid changes and a huge amount of trade. Now, J.M.W. Turner's Richmond Hill, where I work, is a 5-minute walk from this vista, from this scene. I actually, before filming this video, I didn't even realise this was in here. I was going to just film a short showing you this view. It's one of my favourite views in all of England. It's just a perfectly framed image of the turning of the River Thames going through Richmond. Nowadays, of course, you've got things like Twickenham Stadium and airplanes going overhead. But no, that would be quite a nice link now, so look out for that. I'll do a little short, show the view in real life, IRL. Mary Russell Mitford's our village. Richmond is nature in a court dress, but still nature, and very lovely nature too. Gay and happy and elegant as one of Charles II's beauties, and with as little to remind one of the original penalty of labour or poverty or grief or crime. I suppose that since no place on the globe is wholly exempt from their influence, care and vice may exist even there. They are, however, well hidden. The inhabitants may find them, or they may find the inhabitants, but to the casual visitor, Richmond appears as a sort of fairyland, a piece of the old Arcadia, a holiday spot for ladies and gentlemen, where they lead a happy out-of-door life, like the gay folk in Watteau's picture. is a very carefully curated part of the world, Richmond. You have Richmond Park, you have the palace, the old palaces, which are still upstanding, converted into homes from the palaces of Henry VIII, the VII, and Elizabeth I. It's a lovely part of the world. I love working there. Here we have Ford Madox Brown's Carrying Corn, and trivia by Logan Pearsall Smith. Walking one day into a field that I had watched yellowing beyond the trees, I was dazzled by the glow and great expanse of gold. I bathed myself in the intense yellow under the intense blue sky. How it dimmed the oak trees and copses and all the rest of the English landscape. I had not remembered the glory of the wheat, nor imagined in my reading that in a country so far from the sun there could be anything so rich, so prodigal, so reckless, as this opulence of ruddy gold bursting out of the cracked earth as from some fiery vein beneath. We do have very rich fertile farmland. Richard Jeffreys Hodge and his masters, and John Constable's view at Epsom, which is a stone's throw from Richmond actually. Great field after great field rolls away to the horizon. Groups of trees and small copses top the slopes. A roan and black kettle standing in the sheltering shadows. A dreamy haze hangs over the distant woods. All is large, open, noble. This is making me all whimsy for going on a hike through the woods. Charles Conder's Springtime, Lovely Colours. John Ruskin's from the preface of Catalogue. The air was perfectly calm, the sunlight pure, and falling on the grass through thickets of the standard peach, which had bloomed that year perfectly, and of plum and pear trees in their first showers of fresh silver, looking more like much broken and far-tossed spray of fountains than trees. And just at the end of my hawthorn walk, one happy nightingale was singing as much as he could in every moment. How lovely. And now we are up to the 19th century French painters. I think this provides a natural break for us here in our journey through painters and writings. Or writers and painters.